All right, hello traders. Thanks for joining us on our Predicted Trader Google Hangout. We're really excited to meet you and speak with you about the site. So today we're doing a question and answer session with the CEO of Aristotle, John Phillips. We're really happy to take your questions. So at any time during the Hangout, you can submit your questions using the questions app on the right-hand side of your screen. And with that, let's get started. So some of you submitted questions, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. But first, John, I wanted to see if you could talk to us a little bit about your background. You had a pretty interesting political and personal history, so if you could delve into that, that would be great.
About my early 20s was when I was a student at Princeton, as some of you know. I got some attention for having designed an atomic bomb from publicly available documents for my junior thesis project in the physics department. An interesting fact to know about that is Professor Freeman Dyson, who will be familiar to some of you, was my thesis advisor at the time. And I've kept in touch with Freeman over the years, and he's great and has always been a source of inspiration to me personally. I got involved in politics with my younger brother, Dean, in the early 80s, ran for Congress, won the primary for the race for the US Congress, and then lost the general election twice in a row. But as a result of that, became really interested in the political campaign process itself, not just the issues and the policies and the importance of what democracy is about, but the nuts and bolts of political campaigns. And so my brother and I started the company, which carries the name of it's our middle name and our dad's name, Aristotle. We come from Greek parents. And over the years, Aristotle has grown to become the leading supplier, nonpartisan supplier of technology to those who want to influence decisions at the ballot box, grassroots groups, candidates, trade associations, PACs, and the like. And we do campaigns around the world. So there are many countries, especially those experimenting with democracy for the first time, where they look to establish democracies for instruction on how to manage and run a political campaign, something that's never been done in some of these countries before. And so it's some of the most gratifying work that we at Aristotle do is assisting candidates and political parties in foreign countries make their voice heard and hopefully influence decisions at the ballot box for the betterment of their country and their fellow citizens.
Great. You're CEO of Aristotle, but why did you become so interested in prediction markets?
Oh, prediction markets are fascinating, aren't they? They're first of all, just the concept that markets have some predictive powers. What does that really mean? Well, in part, it means you can draw back the curtain a little bit as to the future and have some insights, not 20/20 vision, but you can have some insight into what has happened before, but also into what might be happening in the future. And so prediction markets are an excellent way of harnessing, call it wisdom of crowds, to be able to better understand what the future holds. And it can be anything from the markets are arranged around, where there's price discovery, but particularly of interest to us here is the ability of prediction markets to forecast what's going to happen in the world of politics in the United States and overseas. So it's a fascinating subject, and I'm learning about it. And we've had the benefit of experts who've been doing this for many years, but it's a really interesting subject, how prediction markets can help discern the future.
That's great. So what do you think is the best part about working on Predicted?
Oh, well, I think the traders might agree. I mean, it's very much in the moment, right? So there are events that are occurring on the national political stage that are riveting in terms of what's likely to happen in these contests that are coming up. So no matter what your point of view is on the parties and the candidates and the causes, There's so much, trying to discern what's going to happen is just a fascinating subject, and I think that aspect of predicted is great. The traders are great. You guys are terrific. I love to hear from people who are trading on the site. I follow the comments as closely as I can, as you guys are talking to each other about your predictions, and it's just fantastic fun. And occasionally we do these debate night parties, and we'll be doing some election night parties coming up. We think of these as what we call sort of coliseum or stadium events, because everybody's tuned in. And it's great to meet some of you traders out there when you come to these events. It's fascinating.
Great. So what are some things that traders can expect to see from the site in the next year or so?
Well, there's the purpose of the site is to produce prediction markets are worthy of study, and they've been studied for some time. There's going to be anonymized information, anonymized data provided to probably 24 universities. There are 18 signed up so far, but we're going to be signing up more universities. We have the political science departments, the business schools, the mathematics departments, and there'll be some very interesting research coming out of that as to things such as what types of people anonymously, what makes for an accurate predictor. How are news stories influencing predictions, and predictions in this market influencing news stories and the political outcome? That's on the sort of academic level, which is central to this. But there's also a lot of improvements we're making. So we're making the system more robust so we can handle the number of traders that are coming into the site. We're going to be improving further the way in which traders can interact with each other. There's a whole interesting area having to do with setting up leagues, for instance, so that students and alumni and staff, faculty at University of Chicago can compete with those at the University of California, for instance, for making the most accurate predictions. There's also the opportunity for traders to interact with one another directly. You get your friends on there, you make predictions. So there's going to be changes that we're going to be making, improvements, and we're working pretty hard on it.
Great. So what is one piece of advice that you would give to a predicted trader?
That's a great question. I would, boy, that's a great question. I can't obviously advise one way or another.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the point. I never question the wisdom of my traders. So whatever you decide is going to happen on this race or that race or this or that or the other, I'm sure you're right about it, whichever side you're taking. And you have reason to be taking that side and thinking that this is what the prediction should be, or what the odds of a correct prediction are, I should say. I think it's one of the things that's great about this is so much fun, and that is communicated to me not just by the staff here, all of us that work on this, and the folks at Wellington University, Victoria University in Wellington. But also, people become aware of Predicted. They try it out, and they just seem to be having a really good time. I know we are.
And we are. So what have been some of the greatest milestones with Predicted so far?
Well, certainly, launching the site and having it, in the first early days, it was, we would get somebody would come in and sign up, and a cheer would go up around here. And we still cheer the signups, but it's now that the site has liquidity and there are people communicating with one another, those are important milestones for us. It's been a long road, but and the many others that have gone before us in this and experimented with prediction markets, and if they hadn't done haven't experimented in the way that they haven't been experimenting, it would be much harder to get this thing off the ground. So there are milestones, and we're looking forward to a great 2016 for Predicted.
That's wonderful. All right, so now we're going to jump into some user questions.
Sure.
Traders, if you have any questions, please use the question and answers app on the right side of your Google Hangout. Feel free to submit, and we'll get started. So first question I have is there any chance to predict it might be less focused on US politics in the future?
Well, I think the focus on politics is going to remain, but I do think there's going to be more and more opportunities, more interesting questions in terms of international affairs, geopolitics, and I think many of the traders out there are interested in those areas, and so I suspect we will have questions, more and more questions. There's a lot going on in other parts of the world where the understanding what's likely to happen and being able to put some odds on it would be very helpful, and also a lot of fun.
Awesome. Okay, so the next question. So do you think the practice of investing on candidates would promote political engagement as people are trying to keep current with political events, or keep their toes on political candidates? Excuse me.
So that is a great question, whoever asked that question. Yes is the answer. We are surprised by the demographics of the largest group of traders, which is people who are in their 20s and 30s. And people in their 20s and 30s are often the least likely to be involved in politics and civic affairs. So one possibility, and I'm hoping this is the case, but we'll find out this year, one possibility is like other gaming activities. If you become engaged in the contest around a particular activity, a gaming activity, you become much more engaged, and you become a voracious, in some cases, consumer of information about that area where you are making a prediction. So what that means is it may be that PredictIt is an excellent way for young people to foster the interest of young people in politics and public affairs, and it's been it is a result of people's the way we're constructed, and how we think through challenges and gaming problems. But it's also just because it's so interesting, and politics has always been interesting to me anyway, and to my brother, and to the people that work here. Knowing, trying to discern what's going to happen in the future, the fact that it's been made into a contest is, I think, a pretty compelling way to get people involved. So we'll see. We'll see if people become more involved because they're playing PredictIt, and if people who traditionally were not involved, if it continues, become more involved because of the PredictIt game.
Excellent. So the next question is, have you considered developing an options market on some of the contracts, particularly some of the long-term ones?
So we've got a number of things on our development schedule. That is not one of them that's front and center. We are going to be making some other changes to it, but we're thinking about it. And most of the ideas in terms of, first of all, most of the ideas for questions come from you folks out there, the traders. And most of the ideas in terms of development come from the traders. So you can, when you come to the site, there's a place to make suggestions to us. We read those, and we take that into consideration. So we don't have anything right now in the options market, but we do have big plans in terms of some of the other things we're going to do. And I mentioned, the leagues and some of the other things. Also pushing more content to make it available to traders, that when they're making a prediction on an event, it can be domestic politics or geopolitical event, they have the latest, highest quality content that they can avail themselves of if they want to make an intelligent decision.
Perfect. So one trader asked us a question about our graphs. So we actually made that change pretty recently to the site, I believe, within the last 48 hours or so. So do you want to explain our new and improved graphs?
Sure. So the graphs are, we get a lot of comments on, why don't you guys have better graphs? So, and we heard you. It took us a little longer to improve the graphs, but they have been improving. There are a a lot better. We're going to make some additional changes in terms of the graphs. Right now, what we're doing is we're bulking up on capacity. We think that the number of traders are going to come in around events that are upcoming, like the Iowa caucuses next week, and the New Hampshire primary, and then Super Tuesday. This is going to be a lot of load, and so we're working hard to address that at this point.
Great. Next question is from another trader. How do you think the result of the 2016 election will impact Predicted's future? So this trader says that themselves and many other people have been using Predicted as their go-to guide as opposed to polls for the election. So
that's a question I don't know the answer to. We expect the number of traders to continue to increase and the amount of activity around the most popular questions to continue. It's an open question as to what's going to what is going to happen in what people are going to be predicting in December of 2016 after the election, and then January and February, the early parts of 2017. I can think of a lot of subjects that people are going to have an opinion on, and that the prediction market may end up shedding some light on. So, for instance, the appointment of the next president's cabinet, also the Supreme Court justices who might be appointed or might retire. Those areas are vitally important to a lot of people, and having prediction markets around those that don't necessarily have to wait until the election. But I think those areas, and we get caught up in the elections, and it seems like by November 2016, everybody's had enough of politics. But the fact of the matter is that immediately after the elections, there's a whole new slew of people that have come in to office, and they bring with them a whole new set of policy and political challenges, which are contested and where the outcome is not necessarily certain. So I think you're going to have a lot of areas to make predictions immediately following this election. Some people I know are already thinking, even though they're involved in these campaigns right now, and many of them are my friends, they're thinking ahead to what the big questions are going to be after the general election this year.
Interesting. So our next user question is, how accurate do you think Predicted is predicting outcomes compared to some of the other prediction markets, specifically the play money ones, such as Pivot? What do you think about that?
So I'm not expert on this, but it stands to reason that if somebody has skin in the game, if they've got a little bit of money riding on the outcome, they're going to be, of course, they're going to be more careful with what type of prediction they make than if they don't have any skin in the game. So for money, small amounts of money, but for money prediction markets are going to be more accurate. There's no doubt about it. I think the other type of, the comparison to public opinion polling is one that's frequently made. And that's in part because polling is becoming increasingly difficult, the way it's been done largely up to this point. I have many friends who are in the public opinion polling business, and frankly, they're brilliant. But the polling is difficult. It's difficult to get a correct sample. I should say it's expensive to get a correct sample. You get to make more and more calls now to find someone who fits into the category of somebody that you want to solicit opinions on. So it's expensive, it's time consuming, it's usually a snapshot in time. Polling does give you something that prediction markets don't shed light on. And if you want to get in behind why somebody feels the way that they do on a particular issue, why do you feel so strongly about this issue? What would cause you to change your mind? If a candidate for public office were to say this, would that influence your decision on this particular issue about which you've almost made up your mind, for instance? So polling has has great value, but in terms of providing an accurate snapshot of where the electorate is today, tomorrow, and over the next 25 weeks, increasingly obvious to those who are the experts, and I'm not one of them, that the polling is, that there needs to be other ways to measure opinion. Markets, for money markets, such as predicted, may be part of the solution there. And that's because when people are making a prediction on predicted, let me back up. When they're responding to a poll, usually what they're saying is who they want to see prevail at the polls, what they want to see happen. And that's not always the case, but that's generally speaking what public opinion polls are gauging. Do you support X or do you support Y? But prediction markets aren't asking the same question. What prediction markets allow you to do is say not who you would like to see get elected, but rather what you think is going to happen, irrespective of what you want to see happen. Now, emotion enters into it, of course, but the fact is that prediction markets are much better in terms of assessing what people think is going to happen rather than what they want to have happen.
Very interesting. So our next question is regarding, we have an $850 limit on what you can invest. So it's like a two-part question. So why is it there is the first part, and the second is how common is it for participants to invest in the max amount?
Oh, the max amount. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, when Victoria University sought permission to open the prediction market, one of the criteria was that there would be certain limits, and the $850 limit was a logical limit given the long history of prediction markets and the desire not to allow, not to make it possible for one trader with a lot of money to skew what the market prices were by entering the market. So with the market cap at $850 per market per trader, it's a pretty low limit. And it's kind of hard to influence the pricing for any period of time. Now, there have been in markets where there is no limit, it is possible to influence the pricing. But again, if you're on the wrong side of a prediction and it's going south on you, it almost doesn't matter how much money you put into the market. But there, the limits serve, this limit in particular serves a function, and it was something that the university understood when they went forward.
Cool. So our next question, do you foresee a path for real money markets covering other events than political events? And what immediate barriers might they face if they want to venture off of political events?
Well, I mean, there are lots of places out there that people would like to make predictions, and all over the world there are many areas where you can make predictions on sports or Hollywood, the Oscars, the Academy Awards. You can make predictions on the weather, all that sort of thing. What I think at this point it's likely that predicted is going to more fully develop the political and public affairs areas. It's such an interesting area it's never really been developed before. And if we do a good job there'll be other places where I think that it might make sense to go. But I've never viewed this as something that really is, competes with some of the licensed online gaming sites in overseas or in the United States. It's really a different and quite unique animal here, and it is growing quickly, and it is there's a lot of trading going on tonight. There's a ton of trading going on around some of the questions, some of the predictions. So I think we've got a lot to do there first, and of course we're always interested in other types of predictions, but mostly in the political and government affairs and civic life area. I think that's what our strength is.
Great. We have another question. It's kind of a request as well, but it says, will you add will Trump sweep the states and territories, primaries, and caucuses for Trump and for Clinton?
So by that question, you mean will we include the territories and some of the other areas. Yeah, we will. Will we also have something in terms of I don't know about Trump. I don't know if it'll be for whichever candidates are out there. But I do think there's a lot of interest right now in that race and in a couple of candidates over there. And I think the chances that they're going to do better than expected is something that people want to make predictions around. And there are just as many people who have been and continue to predict the downfall of some of these candidates on both sides. And those are sometimes they're in the form of long shot predictions, and sometimes it qualifies as conventional wisdom. We'll see which one is right about that.
Cool. Another question. What's your favorite market on Predicted and why?
Okay. So I've always been very interested in the Obama approval ratings. I think that those markets have attracted some of the most studious traders because they pour through results. They've got opinions on how those what's going to be happening as a result of a State of the Union speech or some other development. So I think that's one of the interesting ones. I think also questions on things like closing Gitmo, on the Spanish election, the Israeli election from earlier in the year. That was fascinating. Will Greece exit the EU? That's a great question. A lot of people are participating in. And of course, these things have pretty big ramifications. So I guess my ideal predicted question is one that grapples with assessing risk on something that may seem unlikely, but the more you think about it, may not be that unlikely. So I like questions like that, markets like that. Of course, I can't invest in predicted, nor can any Aristotle employee. But I find the most interesting ones the ones where you've got an important sort of geopolitical question. You got a certain element of a long shot in there, and then you've got and those questions generate the most interest from not just traders but from reporters who are reporting on it.
Excellent. So I believe that that's all the questions that I have submitted. But thank you very much for all the traders who joined us today. We really appreciate you as traders, and we wish you the best of luck on the site. Just some reminders, if you are in the DC area, we do have a GOP debate party tomorrow. It's going to be held at Orange Anchor, which is located on the Georgetown waterfront. It starts at 6:30 p.m. and ends when the debate ends. So we really hope that you can join us. You can look at our Facebook page for the RSVP link on Eventbrite. And then don't forget to also trade on our Fox Business News debate questions. Anything else? Any last words?
No, let's play politics.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us again, and have a great